She smiled when she said it as if it were a toast, not a knife. "Congratulations, Madison. We're promoting Paul." I stared at her, my wife, Danielle, as she rested a perfectly manicured hand on Paul's shoulder. He gave me that half-smile people wear when they know they've already won. HR clapped, and Madison blinked, but no one looked at me. I handed Danielle the envelope, cream-colored, thick, personal, and said, "Thanks for the chance." Then I walked out of that glass room, their smugness hanging in the air like stale perfume. They had no idea what was in that envelope. We met in college. She was the girl who used to underline passages in Murakami novels and believed that every heartbreak was part of a beautiful plan. I was the guy fixing her laptop with one hand and sketching startup ideas with the other. She always said we were both building things, her with words, me with wires. We married under string lights, barefoot and drunk on ambition. We started the company together, shared passwords, calendars, toothbrushes. She called us co-founders of the life we were building. Maybe that's why it took me too long to realize it wasn't ours anymore. 6 weeks ago I found the receipt. It was buried deep in the center console of the car, wedged between old receipts and loose change. 2 wine glasses. Chat Montalina. Rooftop bar. Valentine's Day. I had been in Chicago that week, closing Series B funding. The timestamp on the receipt was 9:17 p.m. She told me she stayed in that night, soup and sleep. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Not until I watched Paul walk into our kitchen 2 mornings later, with too much comfort in his stride. I watched him kiss her cheek and grab my coffee mug. They thought I was still asleep upstairs. I started sleeping at the office after that. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't text accusations. I didn't even change the locks. Instead, I logged into the admin panel of the company Danielle and I had built from scratch. You don't give your spouse root access unless you trust them completely. She did. So, I watched Paul's keystrokes, discovering he was rewriting my code base and presenting it as his own. Smart but not smart enough. He didn't know about the shadow repository I mirrored daily. Next, I checked Danielle's email. HR memos, performance reviews. I found a ghostwritten email, a drafted letter to the board suggesting a strategic leadership transition. My name wasn't anywhere in the future they were planning. They were trying to erase me. 2 weeks later I made my move. I reached out to Felicia, our original angel investor, who still held a 4% stake in the company and had grown disillusioned with Danielle's new vision. I showed her the audit logs, proved how Paul had repackaged my algorithms and presented them as proprietary updates. I showed her Danielle's quiet plan to offboard me. Felicia was livid, and, more importantly, connected. We formed a new LLC. Same tech, but this time I stripped out the bloat Danielle insisted on. Leaner. Smarter. Faster. Then I poached 3 of our best engineers, quietly, legally. 2 of them had seen the shift in the company too. They were just waiting for someone to fight back. Then came the final week. I knew Danielle would try to make it clean, a performance review, a realignment, a smiling knife to the ribs. But I was already ahead of her. I walked into that meeting knowing she thought I'd crumble. I knew Madison, our head of product and my mentee, would be confused but compliant. And Paul, now her boyfriend, would be the new golden boy. They'd even ordered cupcakes. So I let her have her moment. Let her say the words, "Congratulations, Madison. We're promoting Paul." Then I gave her the envelope. Inside were 3 things: a resignation letter, effective immediately, a legal document transferring my 32% equity to the new LLC I formed with Felicia, completely legal. I had structured my shares under a holding company 6 months ago during a tax planning session Danielle had never paid attention to. And a USB drive. That drive contained time-stamped logs, email screenshots, code diffs. Enough evidence of intellectual property theft to trigger a full-scale board inquiry and possibly seize attention. It also included a message from Felicia, CC'd to all our major investors, informing them that she was pulling her funding and backing me instead. Danielle opened the envelope after I left. It took 10 minutes for her world to begin collapsing. I heard she screamed at H. Madison cried in the hallway. Paul tried to explain the code discrepancies and fumbled. The board called an emergency meeting. Within 24 hours, our CTO resigned. 2 days later, within a week, our flagship product was pulled due to legal ambiguities. Clients started calling me directly. I didn't answer. I let them wait. The silence is powerful when it's deliberate. Last I heard, Danielle moved out of the house and into a condo downtown. Paul didn't go with her. Apparently, betrayal tastes different once it's public. I never filed for revenge. I filed for patents. I never yelled. I built. When I finally saw her again 3 months later at a tech conference where I was speaking, she looked thinner, tired, still beautiful but no longer invincible. She came up to me after the panel and asked, "Was this all about getting even?" I smiled the way I used to, slow and quiet. "No," I said, "this was about making sure you never do it to anyone else." Then I turned and walked off the stage. You don't need to slam a door for people to know it's closed. Sometimes silence is the loudest goodbye.